Good morning. It is by divine providence that I'm with you today to celebrate the 250th anniversary of the independence of our country. 250 seems to be like the other day. I'm here to express my gratitude to all of you who have shown a lot of admiration, affection, and appreciation. You name a capital after me, the counties or towns or cities that are named Washington. I'm very, very honored to be part of that. This is a reflection on what happened some 250 years ago. I think we need to move on. All right. I had to tell Robin, now I'm back to the 21st century because the clicker doesn't work, so I had to tell Robin to move the, we go back to one slide, please. You recognize the Washington Monument. On top of it, on the facing the rising sun, there are two words that I always cherish. Deo gloria Deo, glory be to God. So this is also not just about the war, it's about a journey of faith that I had been endowed, and I'm very blessed to be able to see people who are good, who have good qualities. And you put me on the dollar bill, and I'm always thankful for the opportunity to serve. If there is a gift for me, that would be my ability to find people of talents. And I always think that associate yourself with people of good quality, because it is better to be alone than in bad company. So the revolution was a result of a teamwork. It's not just me alone. I can provide some leadership, and I started early on, since 1754. I was growing up in Virginia, and this is the motto of my family: exitus acta probat. The ends justify the action, or the end justify the deeds. In 1754, our wise man, Benjamin Franklin, got delegates from 7 countries. He published these cartoons, Join or Die, and that's where they met in Albany in 1754, trying to form a union. And that was not very successful because all the delegates went back to their states and the legislature turned it down because they didn't want to be dependent of anybody else, especially the bigger state, the richer state. Can I pause a second? Is it working yet? Is the remote working yet? If it is, I'd like to have it. No, go back, please, go back, please. Edwin, is the remote working? Okay, then we'll go back. One more. So 1754, I was already involved in the frontier war. I was 22 years old, and I volunteered to take a message to the French that the Virginia governor, Dinwiddie, wanted to get the French out of the Ohio Valley. And it took me 3 months to get the message there and then to come back. Afterward, I was promoted to lieutenant colonel. I was under the command of British General Braddock, and we went there. He was killed, so I took over the command of the regiment. I came back, I was able to save the regiment, and I was promoted to colonel. I wanted to be commissioned in the British Army, that they turned me down, so I thought the British was stupid. Then I went on with my life. I went back to my farm below Mount Vernon, and we have the next slide. On April 16, 1789, I left Mount Vernon for New York City. I was going to be sworn in as the first president of the United States. On the 8-day ride to New York, I had time to reflect on the war, on the revolution, on how to hold the country together. It was then that I thought that by the grace of Almighty God, that we were able to pull it off, because we were fighting against the most powerful country on earth. Every day, every opportunity, I pray. I would say, Almighty and most merciful Father, we humbly beseech you to look down upon us in this time of trial and distress. Strengthen the hearts of your servants who stand in defense of liberty and the rights with which you have endowed all mankind. Grant us patience in sufferings, courage in adversity, and perseverance in the face of every hardship. Preserve this army from want, from sickness, from despair, and unite us in purpose and resolve. Guide our counsels and prosper our just endeavors, that peace and freedom may be secured for this land, and may we ever remember that the success of our cause depends not on our own strength, but upon your favor and providence. All this we ask in humble reliance upon your divine goodness. In the next one, I was April 1775, April 19, 1775. That was the first shot of the war. This is Lexington. The British sent about 900 soldiers to try to put down the rebellion. The militia in Lexington was headed by a Captain John Parker. And he told his troops, farmers, merchants, silversmiths, do not fire unless you fire upon. If they mean war, let it begin here. Somebody fired the first shot, and that's how the war started. I was appointed by the Continental Congress to be Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army on June 15, 1776. The Congress was meeting to try to come up with the rebellion, the uprising that spread all over the country, and that the British were trying to put it down. And we didn't have an army. We had no army, we had no navy, we had no treasury. So it fell upon me to put an army together. I rode from New York to Cambridge, Massachusetts, with 3 other colleagues, General Charles Lee, who was my deputy, and 2 majors. One was Thomas Mifflin. He later became president of the Congress. We stopped in this town called Wallingford, Connecticut. And that was our very, very welcome ceremony that the people of Wallingford, which is a very established town already, it was founded in 1670. So by the time we get there, it's already 100 years old. And they gave us all the blessings on this journey. When I got to Cambridge on July 2nd, I was horrified by the quality of the soldiers that are there, because they were not organized, they weren't disciplined. And it was quite a challenge to start an army without any resources. However, a young 25-year-old bookseller named Henry Knox volunteered to go to Ticonderoga to get artillery from there, and we were able to drive the British out of Boston. I immediately knew that the British would come back, and with much more force. And this is the most full country on earth. There, next to Wallingford, there was a town called Durham. That's where I met a 14-year-old boy named Moses Austin. He was the father of Stephen Austin, who later founded your state, the great state of Texas. In July 1776, the war already began and the British came back to New York. I always thought that they would come back to New York because New York is sort of halfway between the New England state and the southern colony. And they came back in force. There were like 400 ships with 32,000 soldiers. They attacked us in Brooklyn, the famous Battle of Long Island. They cornered us on Brooklyn Heights, and I told our soldiers to retreat in the darkness of the night, and the divine fog which covered our retreat, and also the storm that prevented Admiral Howe, his brother, General Howe, was commander of the British forces, but his brother was Admiral Howe. They were going to corner us on Brooklyn Heights, but we were able to retreat to Manhattan. I was on the last boat. We went to Manhattan, they pursued us, they drove us out of Manhattan to New Jersey. They followed us all the way to Pennsylvania. We crossed the river to Pennsylvania. In the meantime, Congress met in Independence Hall. There were 5 members of the drafting committee. They were presenting the draft declaration to John Hancock. Mr. Hancock was the president of the Congress. The 5 members were Mr. John Adams of Massachusetts, Mr. Roger Sherman of Connecticut, Mr. Robert Livingston of New York, and Mr. Benjamin Franklin of Pennsylvania. The declaration was adopted on July 4th, and I brought you a copy here. So we have the Declaration of Independence. It didn't get us until July 9. I was in New York at the time, and I had my soldiers read the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evidence. At the end, it says, we pledge together our lives, our fortune, our sacred honor. Probably the turning point of this war was the Delaware crossing. It was December, and I felt that I had to attack the British at this point because the enlistment was running out. Many of the soldiers were going to go home, and that was the only opening that we would be able to do that. But there was a snowstorm, very, very heavy snowstorm. It was very difficult for us. I was hoping that we were able to cross to New Jersey, and we had to walk for 9 miles to Trenton before we attacked the Hessian post. But we were delayed for a lot of time, and we didn't get there until almost 8 o'clock in the morning. It was very cold. Many soldiers had no shoes, and they walked barefoot and so on. But their spirit was strong. We surprised, we attacked, we overran them. And that was the turning point. In Paris, Congress sent Dr. Benjamin Franklin to Paris to try to negotiate with the French, because he knew that we could not defeat the British by ourselves. We need support from a foreign power. So Dr. Franklin got to Paris in December, and it was not until the following month in January that he was able to meet the Foreign Minister, Count de Vergennes. Count of Vergennes has a very distinguished diplomatic career. He was ambassador to Constantinople in 1755. And then he became ambassador to Sweden, where he built a strong Swedish-French alliance, and he became foreign minister under the King Louis XVI. At Versailles, Dr. Franklin was able to have a very lengthy conversation with Count de Vergennes. The French wanted to help us out, but they want to see the result. They want to see that we were able to fight. We were able to defeat. We were able to fight, of course. And all these years, I thought that it's best to save the army, not the locations, to live to fight another day. That's why we retreat from New York, which is a major defeat, but I saw it as a turning point because we tested the strength of the British. They follow us, they follow us, they follow us, until we get to Delaware and we cross and we hit back. Dr. Franklin didn't know that we already defeated the British in Trenton because the news traveled very slow. It took him like 2 months. And that was the first piece of good news that he was able to tell the French. Then Valley Forge, we came out in it's about 20 miles northwest of Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. And I thought that this is a good place because we are far enough from the British who already occupied Philadelphia. So we lost 2 major cities. We lost New York and we lost Philadelphia. But as I said a minute ago, we don't fight to retain location. We fight to retain the army. And each time the army moves, the whole village goes with it. There are the women, there are the children, and the women would tend to the wounded. They would cook, they would do the washing, and so on and so forth. So it was like the whole effort of everyone. Wallingford was the 4th largest city at the time. 20,000 people speaking all kinds of languages. And that was a very tough place to be. But I got help from a German general named von Steuben. He came and he helped us out to train our soldiers to be professional. And he organized everything from hygiene and so on and so forth. So our army became a really professional army, thanks to Baron von Steuben. Saratoga, October 1777. General John Burgoyne sent a few thousand soldiers down from Canada. The idea was to cut the colony in half, separate the New England state from the southern state. He would come down all the way to New York. But he got stuck there. British army was trained to fight in open field. But they came down through the jungle, the tree, so they were attacked by a sharpshooter. After a very long fighting, he finally surrendered. That was the first time the British surrendered to us on October 17, 1777. The news spread to New York, to everywhere, and finally to Paris. And that's when the French decided they do have the capability to win. So Dr. Franklin was able to get a treaty from France in February 78, Treaty of Commerce, Treaty of Alliance, and that's when the French began to supply us with finance and support. The French Navy became very strong, and it took them a while to build the Navy to the level of being able to defeat the British Navy. The British Navy was the most powerful. Just imagine they sent 500 ships to New York in 1775 just to intimidate us and to crush us. I already said this, so we can move on. Finally, we had some defeat, we had some success, but the final was Yorktown in October 1781. We bombarded the fort held by General Cornwallis for 6-7 days nonstop, and finally they put up a flag asking for a cessation of hostilities. When we agreed to the terms. General Cornwallis did not even come to turn over the sword. He asked his second in command, General O'Hara. They came, he gave me the sword, I gave him to, first he gave the sword to General Rochambeau, the French general, but General Rochambeau said, no, we are under the command of General Washington. So he gave it to General Washington, and Washington showed it to General Lincoln. General Lincoln is here with us today, so he is the one who accepted the sword of surrender from General Cornwallis that was presented by General O'Hara. The war ended there, but it took a few more years to get the treaty signed. But the war was not just fought by soldiers, it was fought by spies. And I set up the cultural spying in New York during the war. It was headed by Benjamin Talmadge, picture on the left. He later became a member of Congress. Benjamin Maltich, along with Austin Rowe, Abraham Boothall, and Robert Townsend, and two women, Anna Strong, who used laundry to send messages. And they established a lot of code. Mine was 711, that's my code number. And there was a woman, Agent 355. We could never know who she was, but she was part of the 6 spies that helped turn the war around. And they were the one who discovered that Benedict Arnold, one of my favorite generals, defected to the British. The black gentleman there is a black slave found by Marquis de Lafayette. That 1781, he was able to recruit Mr. Armistead, James Armistead, to be a double agent to work with General Cornwallis and get us information. James Armistead took up the name of James Armistead Lafayette. So he became a hero also. We are starting to send people to Paris. Already 3 of them are already there. Mr. Franklin, Mr. Jay from New York, and Mr. Adams from Massachusetts. But another 4th one, Mr. Henry Lawrence, who was president of the Congress, succeeding Mr. John Hancock. He was sent to negotiate with the Dutch to have a treaty of commerce and support, but he was captured by the British. He was the only founding father who was jailed in the London Tower, in the Tower of London. He was chained with General Cornwallis, and he sent to Paris to join our team there. It took us until September 3rd, 1783, to be able to sign the peace agreement. And even after the peace agreement treaty was signed, there are a lot of soldiers, a lot of people, loyalists, we call them loyalists, who need to be either transported back to England or somewhere else, according to the British authorities. In New York, I said farewell to my officer at the place called Francis Tavern. This is a building that still stands, and that's where many of us worked in the first government of the United States. I told my officer that it's time for me to retreat, to go back. But I had one mission, because on in March 15, 1783, there was a rebellion among the officers. They were not happy that the Congress didn't come up with the money to pay them. They were ready to take over the government. I went to meet them in Newburgh, New York. I told them that I have been with you from the beginning. I never left your side. From day one, we are fighting for a cause that we believe in. If you do it now, you're not going to be my friend. You're not going to be the friend of this country. But let me read a letter from a congressman. So I pull out a letter, and I couldn't read because my eyes was going blind. And I told them, gentlemen, I am growing old for my country, for our country. Now I am going blind for our country. And that changed the whole thing. Many of them cried, and the rebellion ended without even starting. So from New York, I went to Annapolis. And all along, I already began to think about forming the government when I was elected to be President of the United States. I thought of Mr. John Jay to be the Secretary of State, but he said he'd rather be the Chief Justice. So I came up with Thomas Jefferson. I thought that he would be an excellent choice. Same thing for Treasury. I thought Mr. Robert Morris would be a good Treasury Secretary. But he turned it down. He said that I have a lot of business, so I'd rather have Mr. Hamilton, which I already have in mind because Hamilton was with me all along. And Henry Knox, of course, he was the one that hauled the cannons from Ticonderoga. The Bible, I was going to be sworn in New York on April 30th, 1789. And nobody thought of anything, because everything was the first time for us. Of all the people I chose for my cabinet, Mr. Hamilton was probably the most unique person because he was not born in the United States. He was born in Nevis. And then his father died when he was 11 years old. Then he went to St. Croix. He worked for a shipping company. And at 14 years old, he was running the shipping company. So the people of St. Croix was very impressed with him. They raised money and sent him to New York to study at King's College. And my ability to choose good people go to the next level. For example, Mr. John Quincy Adams, son of Vice President Adams, he went with his father to Paris when he was 11, and then he traveled to Prussia to be secretary of the ambassador at 14. So he spoke a few languages already, and I appointed him to be ambassador to the Netherlands. He was only 27 years old, John Quincy Adams. Time to be sworn in. I was looking for a Bible. They didn't have a Bible because they never swore anybody in. This is all the first time for us. So one ran into the Masonic Lodge nearby, and they got a Bible from Masonic Lodge. So I raised my hand and I repeated after Mr. Livingston. I said, I, George Washington, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute this office of President of the United States and will, to the best of my ability, preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States. And then I ended, so help me God. Those who remain, although they are not in the Constitution, I burned down and I kissed the Bible. 200 years later, there was another George H.W. Bush. He was sworn in the same Bible. So we call this the bicentennial of presidential inauguration, from George to George. And I believe he is the last person to be sworn in on that Bible. There are two other people I need to mention who were very close to me. I already mentioned Marquis de Lafayette, who came from France. He was born in a 14th century chateau in Savagnac in France, in northern France. And his father died when he was 2 years old, but his family was very, very established. He had access to court and so on and so forth. He fell in love with America. He said that every time I heard America, I fell in love with her. Every opportunity I have a chance to serve her, that would be the happiest of my time. He came in 1777. He was 19 years old. He bought a ship called La Liberté, the freedom or victory. I sailed to Charleston. He rode a few weeks to get to Philadelphia, where he met me. So we became very close. He had no father. I had no son. So our relationship was not just revolutionary. It became like father and son. At our house in Mount Vernon, we had a room reserved for him. There's a picture there. And during the French Revolution, he got a key from Bastille. He gave a key to us. That is currently in Mount Vernon. When he died, he is buried in Paris next to a mass grave of some 1,300 Frenchmen who were guillotined during the Revolution. This is the only place in France where an American flag is flown 24 hours a day. The other person who was close to me came from the future. His name is Sichan Siv. And he had quite a unique story as well. He was born in a kingdom in Asia, east of India and south of China. It was a very powerful empire. For 900 years, they ruled Southeast Asia. Then Vice President Nixon and Mr. Nixon visit that temple, which is the largest religious monument in the world. His country was caught in the war. He was able to escape through the jungle, and then he was able to go to the next country called Thailand. There he spent time teaching English to fellow refugees. On June 4th, 1976, he arrived in Wallingford, Connecticut, the town that I visited in 1775. He arrived 1 month before the America bicentennial with his mother's scarf, an empty rice bag, and $2. He picked apples in Connecticut. He drove a taxi in New York. And then he went to work at the White House for one of my successors, the one who was sworn into the same Bible, George H.W. Bush. He has a little bit of some of us. He has some of Mr. Franklin's character because he liked to play chess. He's not good with chess, but he just enjoyed the game. And he liked friends like Mr. Franklin. He has a little bit me because he's very, very perseverant. And he has a little bit of Mr. Jefferson. They both like French and Francophone. And he has a little bit of Mr. Hamilton because they were both born in a foreign country. This is the office where the President of the United States worked, and one of my favorite photos because they could put one of my paintings there by Raymond Peale, and then President Bush, who is a World War II veteran, and then Sichan Siv, who is a genocide survivor. So you have me, commander of the Continental Army, a World War II veteran, and a genocide survivor in the same room. He worked with President Bush very closely, and they are very fond of him, so fond that when President Bush died, they invited him to fly on Air Force One to accompany his body to Washington. He was one of 5 non-family members to be in that plane. Some years later, he worked for his son, George W. Bush, as an ambassador to the United Nations. There, he represented our country to 192 organizations, 192 countries. Each time he walked in, his colleagues from 192 countries looked at him and they saw America. He was the embodiment of America. And a lot of people say that he worked for 2 President Bush, or he worked behind the bushes. But actually he worked for 3 because he was with me during the Revolutionary War. In December 1799, I went out for a ride. Then I got a cold, and the doctor began to drain my blood. That was the practice of the time. And I was at the end of my day. That's when he told me that he came from the future. And then he whispered into my ear, he said, "I love you. I love you so much. I love you forever." The following day, December 14, 1799, I left your world to go to the kingdom of heaven. His wife, Mrs. Martha Portillo Silve, died the same day, on December 14, but different year, in 2016. When she came to us, she came to tell me that my husband, Si Chan-si, was a big fan of yours. He has a picture of you in a mirror in his office. Before he goes out, he looks at you at the White House and when he was ambassador to the United Nations. And I told her that, yes, I know, because he was with me in the revolution. He was calm and quiet. He seemed to know the outcome of every battle. He was never anxious. And all he can say, just three words: "We'll get there. We'll get there." And Mrs. Silve told me that is the word that she wrote for her husband. "We'll get there." And she said, on the eve of my departure, he whispered into my ears, "I love you. I love you so much. I love you forever." Exactly that's what he told you on December 13, 1799. So he wrote a poem after all of us were gone. He said, "Once we were four with a Christmas tree, then we were three by a shining sea. Now I'm alone but not lonely, for God is with us, with you and me. Soon, together, we'll be free, together, forever, through eternity." He also is very fond of doing something to remember my birthday. I was born on February the 22nd. So one day he went flying with one of his flying buddies, and they flew it on Tuesday, 22nd of February 2022 at 2:22 p.m., climbing through 2,222 feet with a heading of 222 degrees. I mean, this is quite a devotion that I always cherish. This week, he went to New York, and the St. John's Lodge, where I was a member, where the Bible came from, presented him a copy of the Bible I was sworn in. This is the copy of that Bible. As you come and have a look afterward. So we both, Colonel Silve and I, dedicate this to Mrs. Bush, President Bush, and of course to Mrs. Martha Portillo Silve, and to all of you. And thank you very much for the opportunity to share this thought with you. May God bless you, and may God bless America. Thank you. I brought with me two colleagues during the war, General Lincoln, and General Lincoln will come up, General Green, Nathaniel Green. Please come up. Nathaniel Green was one of my most confident. Please come up here. And General Lincoln, who is the one who accepted the surrenders from the British. Good to have you here, gentlemen. So these are the two generals that were very close to my life. He has some materials he wants to share with you afterward. Thank you very much. God bless you and God bless America.
George, can I
Mr. President.
say something? Yes, Mr. President,
Yes.
sorry. So there was a rumor going around that
Yeah.
you chopped down a cherry tree some point in your life. So last
That's
night I
a-
was sitting there thinking about this and thinking about your presentation today, and I thought, you know, it'd be nice to get a cherry branch and make a cross for you. And I thought, where am I going to get a cherry bush, cherry tree? Ain't no cherry trees around this city. So God He planted it on my heart to do a wooden cross for you.
Thank you so much.
I crochet that cross for you.
Thank you so much. By the way,
And
I,
that is from Keys. It's
Thank
from
you.
all of us.
I want to dispel the myth that I chopped down the tree. That's not true. So I am a human, you know, I get angry, I get sad, I get disappointed. When all the painting, you never see me smile because when you sit down for an hour or two, you lost the smile, and that's when the painter captured the moment. But I'm a human being. I was disappointed when General Arnold went to the other side. I was angry when General Charles Lee didn't attack and Monmouth, but I was happy to be able to save our country and contribute to the birth of democracy, which is followed by every country around the world. Thank you so much for this.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
My pleasure.
And now, Mr. Reverend Paul Castor will come bless our food.
All right.